Disney didn't announce a new Star Wars movie this week, but something big is coming, and it might be the best thing to happen to Star Wars since Luke hitched a ride with Han and Chewie. Hey guys, welcome to Be Kind Rewind. I'm Joe Young, and I'm here to keep you informed of my favorite things: movies, movie news, and streaming. So without further ado, let's get started. Disney has officially restructured leadership at Lucasfilm. Kathleen Kennedy is transitioning out of her long-running role overseeing the studio and will move back into a producer position. Stepping into leadership are two longtime Lucasfilm veterans, Dave Filoni and Lin-Wen Brennan. Filoni becomes president and chief creative officer, putting him in charge of the creative direction for Star Wars and other Lucasfilm projects. Brennan takes on the role of co-president, overseeing the business and operational side. She brings decades of experience, including senior leadership roles at Industrial Light and Magic and Lucasfilm itself. This is a phased transition, not an overnight change, but it represents one of the most significant structural shifts Lucasfilm has seen in years. Lucasfilm isn't just a studio, it's an ecosystem. Star Wars alone spans films, streaming series, animation, publishing, games, merchandise, and theme parks. That's an enormous machine to manage, and for a long time, it's been centralized under one leadership structure. This move signals that Disney finally recognizes the scale of what it's dealing with. Separating creative leadership from business leadership isn't a step back, it's an acknowledgement that Star Wars has grown too big, too complex, and too valuable to be run by a single voice. On paper, this is one of the smartest decisions Disney has made with Star Wars in a long time. Putting Filoni in charge of creative direction while Brennan focuses on business operations allows each of them to work in their strengths. More importantly, it introduces balance, something Star Wars has been missing for a long time. We've already seen this model work elsewhere. Warner Brothers took a similar approach with DC Studios, splitting creative vision and business oversight between two leaders. That clarity helped stabilize a brand that had been struggling to find its footing. It's hard not to see the influence there. That said, this is where I start to feel more cautious. Filoni absolutely understands Star Wars. His grasp of the lore is deep, and his connection to the fan base is real. His work in animation kept the franchise alive during a time when it didn't quite know what it wanted to be. But understanding Star Wars and leading Star Wars creatively are two different things. Filoni's live-action work has been uneven. The Mandalorian worked, especially early on, but Ahsoka, for me, struggled to fully translate animated storytelling into live action. At times, it felt like the Ahsoka series was, in fact, a cartoon series in live action. That doesn't mean Filoni can't grow into this role. It just means that the pressure is real. And I don't think Disney is blind to that, which is why pairing him with Brennan feels intentional. This doesn't feel like Disney handing over the keys and walking away. It feels like Disney installing guardrails. In the best case, this leadership structure brings clarity and confidence back to Star Wars. Filoni focuses on long-term creative direction instead of juggling day-to-day studio politics. Brennan keeps the business side disciplined and steady. The franchise gets fewer reactionary decisions and more intentional storytelling. In this version of the future, Star Wars stops chasing noise and starts building momentum again. Worst case, the split leadership creates friction instead of balance. Creative decisions get bogged down. Filoni leans too heavily into nostalgia and fan service. Live-action projects continue to feel uneven, and the franchise never fully commits to a clear identity. In that scenario, Star Wars doesn't collapse, but it doesn't evolve either. It just spins its wheels. Now, the most common outcome is somewhere in the middle. Some projects land, some don't, but the overall direction improves. Even modest stability would be a win at this point. Clear leadership roles alone could reduce the whiplash that's plagued the franchise for years. And honestly, that's progress. This change isn't happening overnight, and that's probably for the best. If Kennedy's final chapter includes the release and success of Star Wars Starfighter, that's a strong note to end on. Ending on a win matters, especially after such a polarizing tenure. My guess is that once this film lands and the dust settles, this new leadership team fully takes over. Now, this move gives Star Wars its most hopeful setup in years, and it's also its biggest test. The structure makes sense, the intent feels right, but execution is everything. Now, whether Dave Filoni becomes the guy or part of the team that finally steadies the ship is something only time is going to answer. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this episode of Be Kind Rewind. You can find Be Kind Rewind on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app of choice. You can also jump into the conversation on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. Just search for @Be Kind Rewind Show. I really appreciate you guys being here. So until next time, bye-bye.